Newcastle. Ke palipana Isaac, ita Liverpool, fraud baba.
But I joke. 7 goals in 3 seasons.
But I don't know. The entertainment, is it? We were always saying Apasisina entertainment.
But at least you have to score, right? You have to score. If you are at that level, you have to score.
To score goals. Alright. Anyway, how are you doing? Welcome to yet another edition of Passports. I'm Ronald Arufandika, joined today by Mchogosi Singulue, calls himself the shareholder.
Major shareholder, not only shareholder.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, how are you doing, man?
I'm okay, man. And yourself? Happy Chelsea won. Easy pickings. Obviously, it's our city, but then, nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing out of the ordinary, of course, with you. This is a tournament that has evaded us since 2018. We've been to a couple of finals, but hoping this time around Chelsea can finally win something domestic. But anyway, let's start off with, I think everyone talking about it. We're talking about the T20 World Cup. So excited. The frenzy, the cricket frenzy going about it. Remember, right now, as we speak at the time of recording, Australia are playing against Sri Lanka, the host nation. The last time I checked, Sri Lanka needed 61 runs off 36 balls. So let's wait and see if they can get the victory. But let's talk about the Chevrons first. They go in there off the back of a defeat from Oman in the preparatory match. They beat convincingly Oman in the first game, and then they shocked the world. They beat Australia. If the tournament was to end now,
the Chevrons would win it.
So much that would say they are the best team
right now.
Exactly. They are the champions. What have you made of them so far?
I think it's a very good performance that we've seen from the Chevrons thus far, because everyone was giving them all sorts of stick to say, if you're losing to teams like Oman, surely who are you going to defeat? Are you going to come out tops against the likes of Sri Lanka? Are you going to be able to hold your own against the Aussies? And they've proven everyone wrong. They beat Oman. Obviously, it doesn't count for anything. Preparatory matches, they don't really get you anything. It's all about match fitness, making sure that the boys are ready to play. And they were ready to play when the time to play came. And they saw off Oman with all sorts of ease, and I'm also impressed in that performance. The match was very good, the batting was good, the bowling was top-notch, and they went and did it a step further, top-notch against the Aussies, because if you're facing teams like Australia, I mean, that's cricket royalty. It is a proper cricketing nation, and what I saw from the Chevrons is if you beat teams like Australia by 23 runs in a T20, surely that's a decent enough margin, because Australia are talking about royalty, cricket royalty, like I mentioned. So I feel the Chevrons at this stage, they've got the bit between their teeth. They're so confident they can obviously take on any cricketing nation, and obviously feel confident they're going to beat them. And I think we can dream now. I think the dream is on, the dream is alive. We can even make it into the Super 8. Obviously, we need a few results to go away. Beat one of Ireland or Sri Lanka, and then we're into the Super 8. And who knows, we can dream on. Everyone thought the dream team of the Henry Olongas, the Heath Stricks was the IT team, but then you never know in sport, and you never know in cricket. This Chevrons team might be the one to go the entire distance.
So how do you keep the boys there? Because I'm sure, once you beat Australia, how do you keep them level-headed? How do you keep them focused? To say that, look, yes, you won against Australia, but you still have to put in the work against Ireland. I've just been looking at the possibility of top 8. You're thinking Sri Lanka at home, so it might probably pose a difficult match. So why don't you just get the victory against Ireland and just make sure you secure the top 8, Super 8.
Yeah, definitely. Like the old adage in sport, you only have to beat what's ahead of you. And what's ahead of the Chevrons is Ireland. And they have to deal with Ireland, not get too thick-headed, not get to think about what lies ahead, what can be. Because the Sri Lanka match might be academic in any case if you see off Northern Ireland in the earlier match. So I feel that's what should be in the Chevrons' heads. And the coach, what he should be doing, obviously make sure the boys, they're grounded. They shouldn't get ahead of themselves. They shouldn't celebrate earlier. You don't want to celebrate earlier, and then before you know it, Australia go leapfrog you, and Ireland also then leapfrog you. You don't want to do that. So you obviously want to keep them level-headed, make sure they stay grounded, they stick to the camping rules. If it's a curfew in terms of what time you go to bed, our eating patterns, we don't change that, because there is no need to fix it if it's not broken. So just remember, don't celebrate early in sport, and you shouldn't be doing that, especially if you've got teams like Australia prowling behind you. You obviously don't want to be doing that. So I feel it is there for the taking. It's there for the Chevrons to obviously bring back home, and I feel they're going to do it. I just have this thing and my instinct telling me that the Chevrons are going to go a distance better than they have done in the past.
So let's hope that we've learnt our lessons from the last edition. We didn't see, we could have saw off for Bangladesh and Netherlands. We ended up missing out. So let's hope that we correct the wrongs. Kudos to the likes of Blessing Mzarabani, Brian Bennett. They've been coming through with the wickets and also the runs respectively. Now let's move on quickly and look at Formula One. Is it the season, the new year started? Landon Norris won it last year. But I know you're a big fan, but what do you think is going to happen this time around in Formula One? We know there's the likes of Max Verstappen, there's the likes of Landon Norris, the champion, the likes of the great Lewis Hamilton. Is he going to be able this time around to finally get back, or we've seen the best of him, we've seen the back of him? So what do you think is going to happen in Formula One?
I think if you ask me, rather I'll start with what do I want to happen. I would want obviously to give Lewis Hamilton a perfect send-off, obviously have him to win it, because he's been receiving a lot of stick. Some people thinking his best years are behind him, and he's not quite edged like fine wine that does over the years. So I feel Lewis Hamilton, if he's able to win this for Ferrari and rewrite the story, because people thought he was at Mercedes, he had the best cars, but then eventually with Mercedes he wasn't winning. So if he's able to come back, recollect himself and win, I think it will be the perfect send-off. And like the old saying, a good dancer always knows when to leave the stage. I feel if Lewis Hamilton is lucky enough to eventually win it this time around, I think he should call it quits and obviously stop racing, and it will be a perfect send-off, because you have to know when to leave. But I feel the likes of Lando Norris, like you mentioned, no one thought he was going to come out and win the championship. Everyone thought he was sort of an underdog, and no one gave him a chance. It was always the usual suspects, the likes of Max Verstappen, who I think is going to come strong this racing season, because he didn't win it last year. Obviously, he's chasing the records that the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Schumacher broke over the years. So I feel it's going to be a very interesting season, a very interesting racing season, but I feel that Max Verstappen is going to come strong. Lewis Hamilton is not going to be lagging far too behind. Lando Norris also wants to build on the performances that he showed last season, but I feel Lewis Hamilton is going to do better this season, and with a bit of luck, go the entire distance and win the championship.
Go the entire distance. So for all you Formula One fanatics, you can also drop a comment. Who do you think is going to win this Formula One season? Now, let's move on and get into international football. We start off with Jude Bellingham. Out for 6 to 8 weeks, according to reports coming to you from Spain and Real Madrid. Does this affect his spot in the end? Because we know that he's going to miss a huge chunk of Champions League, action. He's probably going to come back sometime in April, and we know that there's an ongoing fight for that number 10 position that is in the English national team. There's the likes of Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer is back. Does that affect Jude Bellingham's position that is in the England national team?
Yeah, it certainly does, because Thomas Tuchel has not been a guy who's scared to make the big decisions, because we saw, obviously, he has been preferring to pick Morgan Rogers, who has been doing very well for Aston Villa. Morgan Rogers, he's got the most goals outside the box this season alone of any player in the EPL, and has been scoring very crucial goals for Aston Villa. And most of Aston Villa's wins are as a result of the number of winners that Morgan Rogers has been able to score. So I feel for me, there are only two better runners with the football in the Premier League, and it's Mateus Cunha and Morgan Rogers. Those are two of the best. It's obviously a difficult pick between the two to say who's the better of the two. I feel he's a very good player who could make it at Manchester City, like Cole Palmer failed to make it, went to Aston Villa, and he's been obviously hitting the ground running, and he did that from the very off. So I feel he's a player who's going to go in with a shot. Cole Palmer has recently returned to form as well, and he's been scoring for Chelsea, hat-trick the other week against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Also a few involvements in the same match as well. So I feel he's one guy who's obviously going to be fighting to make it into this England squad, and injury has been such a bad enemy to him as well, Cole Palmer. So Jude Bellingham, having been dropped in the earlier stages, when Thomas Tuchel took over, I feel he's obviously going to be kicking himself at what can possibly be. He doesn't want to miss the plane to the World Cup, but I feel it's a real possibility this time around because of what has been happening in and around the English team. We've seen Thomas Tuchel is not a guy who's scared to make the big decisions. So it's a huge blow both for Real Madrid as well as for England, because Real Madrid going into the business end of the season, you obviously want your best players in and around. I know Adegula has come through and performed very well, but then the likes of Camavinga, Federico Valverde, more than able to play in central midfield. Now that Trent Alexander-Arnold is returned from injury, obviously it will free up Fede Valverde to play his preferred position in central midfield. And Camavinga and Chouameni, I think Real Madrid are not going to be affected that much, but you obviously would rather have a selection headache in terms of who to select when all players are fit, rather than not having to make those decisions when some of your players are injured.
It's quite interesting the kind of beautiful headache that Thomas Tuchel has. He's put for choice in those attacking areas. I like the fact that you've highlighted that Cole Palmer is back now, firing on all cylinders. You've got Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden,
Ebericha Eze.
Yeah, you also have Gordon from Newcastle. So he's quite sport for choice. It's just difficult to say who then partners here, who then plays behind Harry Kane. But where is it that it never really quite clicks, yet they've got that huge pool of talent?
I think for England, over the years, it has been the lack of a natural number 6. It's crazy because yesteryear when they had the likes of Steven Gerrard, they had Frank Lampard, they had Paul Scholes, they had Owen Hargreaves. That's more or less 4 central midfield players. But then in the last 3, 4, 5 years, they haven't been having the best of central midfielders, with all due respect to the likes of Jordan Henderson. I know Kobe Mainoo broke onto the scene a couple of years ago, and he sort of fixed the puzzle at the just ended Euros, but then they've lacked a natural number 6, because for me, Declan Rice has shown fast now he's not a sitter, he's a box-to-box player. He's done well with both Thomas Partey and now Martin Zubimendi in the team sitting, and then he has got the legs, he's got the energy to go up and down the pitch. So I feel that's what they were lacking. They tried to play Declan Rice at the just ended Euros in that particular position, but he didn't play very well. That's when Kobe Mainoo broke onto the scene, and he had a wonderful tournament, unlucky to lose to Spain in the final. So I feel the emergence of a certain Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest has sort of fixed that conundrum for Thomas Tuchel, and he's got a good midfielders to choose from. We also have Adam Watson playing for Crystal Palace. He's a very good midfielder, and he's a good holder in that midfield. So I feel England now have the best balance. I'll say this, obviously, I know I'm going to receive a lot of stick from you, the listeners, as well as from yourself, to say this is the best squad that England has been able to assemble. I know they had David Beckham, Paul Scholes, that team lacked balance. But then in terms of balance and being a core, being a team that they've managed to put together in the last 2 decades or so, this is the most balance that they have in recent memory.
All right, and then as we get to round up, there was a couple of FA Cup games that were on. I think most teams that we expected to progress to the next round managed to do that. Big wins for Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, through Newcastle, Liverpool, all through to the next round. But I think what I want you to touch on as we get to close the show is Arsenal dropping points, the gap between them and City dropping to 4 at this stage, and City coming through with a convincing win, whilst Arsenal drew to Brentford. Should we draw much from the draw against Brentford? They've got a perfect home record, and they're also informed. They've got a couple of players that quite can hurt you, the likes of Thiago, the Brazilian. They can always hurt you.
Dango, Tara, yes.
So, but then for Arsenal, is it a case of some players when you need them the most, like the miss that Martinez missed? Is this the little small details in those key moments that Arsenal sometimes over the years, the last 4 or 5 years, makes them finish as runners-up? Or maybe it's just being hard on them, the fact that they drop points against a good side?
Obviously, there's some games that are going to cost you the title. The matches that quickly spring to mind are the few matches against Fulham, both home and away in the last 2 seasons, where Arsenal have respectively lost and drawn on different occasions. Those are potential 6-pointers, and in both instances, they didn't really lose the league by 20 points or 10 points, whatever it is. It was very few points, the odd points at the end of the day. So I feel every match going into the business end of the season is very important, and now City are only 4 points behind. I'm not so convinced about this City side. It is unlike the City sides of yesteryear, with the ones that are the likes of Yaya Toure, your David Silvas, your Kun Agueros, your Alvaro Negredos. Those were absolute animals. Vincent Kompany obviously marshalling things from the back. You knew that particular City side, if it is not happening for them in the final third, Vincent Kompany would pop up with a header in the last minute of a match and win you matches. Remember that long shot against Leicester City that won them the title a few years ago. So they don't have such characters in this particular Manchester City side. With the likes of Jeremy Doku, who've obviously scored 7 goals in the last 3 seasons combined. I mean, that's a tally that someone can score in the first half of a season alone, let alone to think that someone the size and stature of Doku goes for 3 seasons without having scored more than 7 goals. It's worrying to say the least. So I feel this City side is not the best of sides that they've assembled over the years, but then Arsenal masters are choking. I know they've always been bottling. I famously said in previous editions, if ever there was an Oscars or Grammys for bottling, you'd obviously hand it over to Arsenal and Tottenham respectively. But I feel this time around they are just but going to nick it because City are not consistent. I know alarm bells have been pressed because Arsenal have been dropping points, something that they've done over the years, but I feel they're just going to be good enough at this stage of the season for 2 reasons. City are not consistent enough and the chasing package has not been consistent enough, and I feel Arsenal, the likes of Victor Gyökeres, they're also coming into their own now, starting to pop up with important goals. You've got the likes of Gabi Martinelli. I know he famously didn't score for a very long period of time, but then looks like he's been chipping with a few goals. Noni Madueke as well amongst the goals over the weekend. I know he's been playing very well, but then hadn't scored for a year and still counting. Also, the likes of Leo Trossard, the goals have dried out. I think they've got goals equally distributed across their squad. It's not a key star man that they have to say Victor Gyökeres is going to score 30 goals this season and is going to take us to the title. It is going to be a collective effort. Declan Rice is going to come through with a few goals. The player that has surprised me the most is Martin Odegaard, because they thought the more the squad had better players in and around Martin Odegaard, the more we're going to see him upping his game. But then it looks like it has gone in an opposite direction. It has had an inverse regression, so to speak. So I feel it is something that's been worrying. And I'm wondering why Mikel Arteta is not going for the jugular. Just play Ebery Eze. In the moments that he was playing earlier on in the season when Odegaard was injured, he scored a hat-trick against Tottenham. Why fix it if it's not broken? Managers are going to be the end of us, and I don't know why they make such decisions. Maybe I'm not a manager for a reason, but I feel some of the decisions they make leave a lot to be desired.
All right. So for you Arsenal fans, you can also come to drop a comment. Let us know, are you worried by the fact that you're not just 4 points behind you when you've got the likes of Chelsea, the world champions, behind you, chasing you?
Chelsea?
Yeah, Chelsea. I just had to throw them in there. But otherwise, Manchester City being the team that's right behind their neck. They play not so long ago, not so far away. I think City is on the horizon. They also got some tough fixtures, Arsenal. They also have Tottenham, Brighton, and Hove. Chelsea, Brighton, and Hove Albion. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Gunners can hold it off this time around and make sure that they get to win the title that he has eluded them since 2003, 4. Yeah, so that's been a while. I think that is all we had for you today on Power Sports. Make sure that you come to follow, like, subscribe, share, and also drop your comments. I'm Ronald Arufandika, was joined by
Mtowazi Singuluwe, major shareholder, Manchester United.
Ciao, ciao.